podcast that believes that, on balance, the United States of America fucking rules, actually. That for all the hemming and hawing and to-be-shoring and qualified, careful tiptoeing that polite and overeducated types will do when confronted with even a hint of American civic pride, it is in fact fine and good to appreciate what makes this country great. Specifically, American greatness is derived from its foundational commitment to pluralism, a nation fundamentally opposed to fundamentalism, an enduring constitutional order that has maintained for a quarter of a millennium because of its recognition of the fact that human beings rarely figure out much of anything on their own, despite the near universal conviction of the opposite, that truth and justice and progress can be approached from many directions, that it is merely human to prefer one's own. And so, if we are to be governed, it must be with the collective understanding that we must endure the existence of competing ideas and solutions, that the only way to get along on this crowded, sweaty planet is to recognize the fundamental dignity and sovereignty of the individual, both yourself and also the extremely wrong asshole who is standing in the way of what you know to be the only just solution, and, together, mutually agree to a plan that satisfies neither while still accommodating both. A country so steeped in pluralism that it declared the obvious truth that all men are created equal to be self-evident, and then, in its founding governing document, made concessions to the people who claimed actual ownership of men. Why? How? Because in order to keep secure the natural rights of human beings, governments must be instituted among people, and successful governance requires pluralism. Because, again, all men are indeed created equal, the founding moral tragedy notwithstanding. The fundamentalists' authoritarian diktat is anathema to a free people, and was eventually proven so. The consent of the governed can only be freely provided by a people in charge of themselves. The founding contradiction is not an accident. We knew better. Of course we knew better. But without concession to the awful reality of other people, without concession to the obvious fact that we, too, are some other people's awful reality, none of this would work. What has made the last few years of American civic life so intolerable is that we have been overwhelmed by the certainty that we cannot live together. That to give an inch is to give the game away, that our differences are fundamental and irresolvable, that pluralism is itself a mistake because the stakes are catastrophically, existentially high. This is obviously wrong, but it is so appealing to the human animal that once it takes hold, it cannot properly be flushed from the system. Perhaps this is somehow a product of the informational mass media and now social media age, but we are awash in the idea that one's emotional and psychological hysterical certainty itself makes right. We are drowning in a sea of self-righteous individual dogma. That's what the medium allows for. That's what the medium demands. That's the message. There is probably no pulling out of it. We will experience the delightful and unbearable decadent decline that is the inevitable result of a people staring into the face of impossible plenty and declaring it never enough, never enough, never enough. We have it so good that we can no longer imagine how bad it can be, and so we have lost the capacity for real gratitude. All that's left is the wanting and the complaining, and the insistence that it was once better, or could be perfect one day in the future. But this podcast is immensely grateful for now, and for this great, stupid country, even as it insists on tearing itself apart. But even the tearing apart and the starting over, that's part of pluralism, too, that we must not be any more beholden to old, bad ideas than we are required to blindly listen to new, bad ideas. So this podcast will, 250 years into the greatest and most successful experiment in collective human self-governance ever achieved on this or any other known planet, stand and salute as a little leaguer plays the national anthem on his trumpet, in celebration of a nation whose ethos is in keeping with the undeniable biological truth that human beings are a successful species because of our unique ability to communicate and compromise with one another. That we, the human species, are, above all, life itself's pinnacle cooperative pluralistic effort, just trying to make it work together. The United States of America, 250 years old, and fundamentally only human.